Five Nights at Freddy's, a game where you sit in a room and watch still images change as several animatronics try to murder you by screaming loudly, is in fact getting a film. I think that this game is repetitive, but somewhat interesting. Well, as interesting as watching a brick wall for 5 nights. But if you haven't heard this game, get out of that rock you're sitting under because it's the biggest thing in gaming right now. The plot, if you could call it that, is about a Mr. Mike Smith and his wondrous adventures as a night watchman at a Chuck E. Cheese-like place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. This may sound like a waste of time, but this place's animatronic mascots are sorta coming to life at night and trying to kill you. Why? Because it's spooky. Your objective is to stop these robots from killing you by shutting doors, turning on lights, looking at the security feed, and making reaction faces for your face cam for 5 nights. That's about it for the main story, but there's underlining tones of murderous stories told through newspaper clipping. Basically, children were murdered and stuffed into the animatronic chutes, blah blah blah. And I guess that's why they want to murder you, because they're haunted and it's spooky. And, of course, there are enough fan theories to fill a small country. Most of them are stupid and incorrect, but some are interesting and have a point, but there's already enough channels that cover that. That's it for the game side of things, but where do I fit in? Well, as I previously stated, there will be a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It's confirmed. So what's it about? Who's in it? Where do I buy tickets? Whoa, 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 whoa. Slow down there, fan base. Here's a picture of a hat to calm you down for a while. For now, we have speculation and hopes. This video is going to talk about what I, a movie watcher and lover of horror, want for this film. There's already enough videos about fans screaming what they want in the movie, like, well, we need Foxy, where's the Foxy, I love Foxy. But I'm going to look at it from a general perspective and from a movie perspective. Video games and movies are different, so we need to work out what works in each context. Alright, enough blabber, let's get into it. Now, I'm well aware that there are 3 Five Nights at Freddy's video games. I think everybody knows that. So, which one should be made in the movie? Well, if Scott Cawthon wants to milk this cow and beat it for more money, then he'll sure as hell make as many movies as the Universal Studio will let him. So the first movie should be based around the first game. And I think that's fine and logical. You have to start where it started. But I hear you saying, but chum, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was a prequel to the first game, so that's technically where it started. As you finish your argument by pushing up your glasses and brushing off your pocket protector, I ask, what was that the first game? By this I mean, how confusing would it be if the second game was the first movie and the first movie was the second game? I know, it's confusing already. But Five Nights at Freddy's the movie should be taking place during the first game, which is in 1993 according to the fan base. So this time period is 1993, but where geologically is it? Well, a phone guy speaks with an American accent, and also at the end of the game, oh wait, spoiler alert, if you would survive the attack of the animatronios, you get paid for your weekend at Freddy's. You get paid in dollars, so it's in America. Well, in the video game, you're limited to 5 robots, a man on the telephone, and a faceless, voiceless, and emotionless night watchman, like the audience. The robots will most likely be CGI endoskeletons and CGI suits, but my hope goes out for actual animatronics, so the movie feels real. Well, as real as you can get with haunted killer robots. So for the robots in Five Nights at Freddy's, we have Freddy Fazbear, the main mascot for this pizza chain and the singer in the restaurant's band. Then we have Bonnie the Bunny, the guitarist for the band and overall creepy weirdo. Next we have Chica the Chicken, the only female hunk of junk who's a backup singer. We also have Foxy the Fox pirate. He's all busted up and left into the broken down pirate cove. The final animatronic is a ghost hallucination, spooky thing called Golden Freddy. He's basically an Easter egg secret, but he's still in the game, and according to the growing fanbase, he's so important to the story, and he's the missing dead child or whatever. As I said before, these robots will just be CGI monsters who will sooner or later jump at the screen and startle you, so no one really cares who plays them. As for the humans, first we have the phone guy, the higher up lead security guard who tries to call you, but you're so lifeless you can't even pick up the phone, so he leaves you voice messages on how not to get his stuff into a furry suit. His character arc starts and ends there, and all he is a tutorial for the 7-year-olds who play this game. I mean, wow, it's very difficult to press the huge red button to shut the door when the bad man runs down the hall to yell at you, but, you know, he didn't care to explain this. Phone guy plays a part in every Five Nights at Freddy's game, and so he's a fan favorite. But I guess Scott Cawthon saw otherwise because during the 4th night of the 5 nights, he dies. Wow, what a twist. Basically, he's a voice, so whoever voiced him in the game could voice him in the movies, and nobody would bat an eye. The other human is Mike Smith, a deaf-mute watchman who risked their life for $120 at the end of the week. He's basically you. He's a playable character you insert yourself into. So, who will take this role as Mr. Interesting? Well, I think it should be somebody interesting and well-suited as a role for an everyman. As Hollywood would do it, the guard would be a hot, young male whose ego is bigger than the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base. I nominate Jay Hernandez, Guy Pearce, and Will Poulter. Jay Hernandez was in Hostel and Quarantine, so he knows the genre. He's also handsome and a strapping young lad who looks like someone who would take a small wage, so he seems like a good candidate. Guy Pearce was in Memento, Iron Man 3, LA Confidential, etc., etc. He's an older and more experienced and a great actor. Since the Night Watchman's only motive is a paycheck, Guy Pearce would bring more depth to the character, and people like Guy Pearce. Roy Poulter is a comedy actor. He's in Meet the Miller, son of Rambeau. Haha, very clever. He's no good, you say? He's the worst choice. Well, he just basically started acting. He's very good. This role seems very good for a rising star because of the love of the series. He could bring a dark comedy element to this film. Also, look at that face when he's scared. It's just great. I'd be happy with anybody who's not Pretty Face McReally cares. Hollywood's gonna bone me on this one. I'd really be satisfied with anybody who actually cares about the role. The biggest element in the Five Nights at Freddy's game series is the jump scares. That's what it's known for, and here's what I want from them in the movie. I want minimal jump scares. Hey, I hear you furiously typing on your keyboards. Stop it. I'm gonna give you a lesson in horror. Horror is when you fear something. Good horror is when you leave the theater still thinking about the movie you just saw. It's something that stays in the back of your mind, making you fear going to the fridge at nights because it's dark in the kitchen. Jump scares, on the other end of the spectrum, is something completely ridiculous in my mind. It's when something jumps at you and you react. Why do you react? Because you didn't expect it to jump at you. After you jump and make a realization that this is just noise and a scary picture, then you're no longer scared. This is called startling. Startling someone is the cheapest way of horror. That's why the old broken down carnival haunted house is a fake Dracula jump at you, because it's the cheapest way to scare somebody. As you all know, this is the only quote unquote scary part of Five Nights at Freddy's, so for the movie, this will get tiresome in the 20-second mark. So we must use the jump scares lightly. Jump scares should only be used about 10 times in a 2-hour horror film, but since you're dealing with about maybe an hour to an hour and a half of footage, the maximum of jump scares should be about 8, and that's being reasonable. 2 of them should be false, the rest should be all but real. The other scares have to come from the environment and the creepy storytelling or just creepy imagery. Anything else besides the jump scares would frighten me. That's all I require, so here's the rest. So it starts with Mike Smith getting fired from his day job as a blue-collar worker of something. He leaves work distressed and returns to his home. He, of course, is married and has lovely children to appeal to the 6-year-olds who love the game that their daddy plays. So Mike arrives home to tell his family. His wife feels bad, so to cheer him up, the whole family goes to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The kids have fun, but Mike sits at a table and eats stale pizza. He looks at the robots and all the fans in the audience freak out. He thinks about how much he loved this place as a child and notices a help wanted sign. He asks the manager about this position and gets hired as a security guard during the night shift. He arrives next day at midnight and starts his 6-hour shift. He looks through the security cameras like it's Paranormal Activity 4 and gets a phone call. Instead of not answering like a loaf of bread, he picks up the phone and the phone guy speaks with Mike. Phone guy explains a brief history of the restaurant while Mike takes it in. The rest of the night happens and maybe the robots moves his head or something, but nothing happens. That's the important part. This is so moviegoers don't blow their load within the first half hour. Mike comes back to the next night thinking that everything's fine and basically the same thing happens. Phone guy calls, Mike gets snippets of history, and the whole time phone guy seems nervous. Then he gets the recent history and stops in 1987. Eh? Get it? So during the end of the night, Mike looks at one of the security cameras and sees Bonnie staring right at him from the stage. He watches Bonnie blink and then he turns off the camera and shuts the doors. He leaves at 6 a.m. and feels bad about coming back the next day. This is so the audience can start to feel uncomfortable. So the next night, Phone Guy explains about the bite of 87. This was an event where a child was bitten in the head by one of the animatronics. Which one? Nobody knows, and no one will ever know. This mystery is something that keeps the series as a whole spooky, so it mustn't be revealed. If it is, it's just gonna ruin all the tension. Mike feels scared of these robots now, so he checks the cameras to find Freddy's face filling one of them. He flips to another and finds the Pirate Cove camera. You see that Foxy is missing, and you hear sea shanties being sung down the hall. On his way out in the morning, he locks the door and hears a slam and a shatter. Mike runs back inside to see the window of the office is broken and a red piece of fabric is hanging off the broken glass. At home, Mike talks to his wife, telling her the strange things that are happening at the restaurant. She finds that odd and explains to the husband that their children are there, at a birthday party. Mike, worried about his child, rushes to the pizzeria to find everything is fine and the window in the office has been repaired. Talks to one of the day guards about it and notices that Foxy is out of order. The guard explains that he got ripped somehow and he didn't know much about it. It seems odd to Mike, and later that night he asks Phone Guy about the incident. Phone Guy acts nervous and hangs up earlier than normal. This is when the tension starts to build. Mike checks the cameras and all the animatronics are missing. Then we get a shot like Halloween. We see someone looking through the windows at Mike and the view gets closer and closer, then Mike looks straight at it. He runs away and Mike shuts the doors. This shows that Mike is definitely not alone. Mike looks back at the cameras to see everything was back to normal, except a loud, robotic buzzing noise coming out of Foxy. Mike picks up a flashlight to go turn off the noise. He walks in the hall to see Foxy, illuminated only by the flashlight. Mike stops the noise and walks back. He goes to the office to find a trail of blood going from the left door out into the hall into the darkness. Mike leaves earlier than normal this time. The fourth night starts out easy, but phone guy's call is later than usual, nearing the end of Mike's shift. He explains about the rumors of the murdered children, saying that they were false and started by a rival company. Phone guy is cut off by a cut phone line, then the cameras go out. Mike looks for his flashlight, but it falls into the floor, so Mike shuffles around to find it. He goes under the desk and looks forward to see a vent, and Chica's sitting there, staring at him, open mouth, wide-eyed. Chica screams with the jump scare yell that the game is famous for, and Mike runs out and calls the police out of fear. The police arrive and say nothing was wrong. Mike goes home and thinks about what just happened. Was Mike crazy? Was this all in his head? That's for the audience to decide. This brings a psychological horror element along with the jump scare horror. It's all horror, after all. Just before Mike leaves home for his 5th night at Freddy's, he gets a phone call from Phone Guy. Phone Guy is very nervous and rowdy, explaining that something's very wrong at the restaurant. You hear metal clanking and possibly sea shanties. Phone Guy whispers, "Help me," and then he just stops. No sound, no nothing. Mike looks worried as he puts on his tie and his hat and gets ready for work. This was the last the audience saw of Mike Smith. Well, what'd you think? It sucked, right? Because there were no jump scares? Because we never saw Phone Guy or heard his real name? Or maybe because Foxy wasn't in it much? Well, I tried. I only played the first game and watched the rest being played by a 7-year-old, so my resources are limited. But I'll leave you with this. Remember those video game movies that sucked? You know, Postal, Alone in the Dark, Super Mario Brothers, and I can't even say that one, Good Company. Let's try to make this movie more than an hour and a half collection of jump scares. For the people's sake. And for my sake.